another week of the Cooper Football Show with Jaguars coach Randy Borchers and others. And a programming, years ago I did the Bengals postgame show, and it was the year that they were 2-14. And one week a caller phoned in and said, you guys should stop wasting your time coming in here every week. Why don't you just record this week and play it next week? Because they were so horrific. I'm starting to feel like that with this. It's in a good way, though, mind you, right? Victory after victory, 4 of them now, in case you lost track. I'm going to ask you about that, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our special guest for tonight, Lance McAllister, had to reschedule, and it's not his fault. He works for a company called iHeartRadio, and I know people may not realize this, but a lot of radio that you listen to today is taped. They think they're fooling the audience, and maybe some people are so dumb they are. But the reality of it is a lot of shows are taped or voice-tracked. So he tapes on Mondays, and this makes sense. They go down to Paycor Stadium after Bengals games, and the Bengals have set up a studio in there. You probably have to pay to use it, but they set up a studio so that you can catch players and interview them. So they taped this morning's show and did a bunch of interviews, and the taping didn't work. So Lance is pretty happy. I can't read you the text he sent me because it's got some language in it not suitable for young people. But he will come back a different Monday. So he had to go in and do the show live, novel concept, live on radio. People don't realize that. They think that shows are all live, and they're not. Now, back to Cooper football. 42-0 over Campbell County, running clock. I mean, you had to be, especially coming off the win over Ryle, the emotion of that, kind of the tale of two halves. You're up with a chance to maybe go up 21 or 28-0 in the first half. Instead, Ryle comes back, ties it, has a chance, the muff punt, the touchdown pass from O'Hara to Johnson, the victory. You finally beat Ryle, and now you go to Campbell County. And we talked about focus, and, it's coach speak 1 week at a time. But you had to be pretty darn – we'll get to some of the numbers, but you had to be pretty darn impressed with the way your team came out, both sides of the ball and special teams, the way they played at Campbell County.
Yeah, and when you look defensively, we just continue to get better. Everyone always talks about our offense, but right now our defense is playing lights out. Campbell County didn't have a first down until about 7 minutes left in the football game. So, defensively continues to get better. And if our defense can play that solid week in and week out, we're going to be really hard to beat.
Well, you mentioned about the defense. I mean, let's talk about the 4 games. I mean, you have 2 shutouts. And you'd have 3 were it not for a score on the last play of the game. The most points you've given up is 14 to Ryle, which is certainly no shame because they've scored plenty of points this year. So, against Campbell County, you had 1 penalty, 0 turnovers. They had 90 yards. You held them to 2 of 13 on 3rd down, 1 of 10 on 4th down. I mean, that's pretty impressive. And I like the 0 turnovers, the 1 penalty for 7 yards. I mean, really, those are what? You were 6 for 6 on PATs. You only punted once, but you punted it out inside about the 5-yard line. I mean, those are some impressive numbers that you don't get every week. And you're right. I mean, last year you had the 58-51 against Highlands. I don't see a score like that in any game this year if your defense keeps playing the way it has been.
Yeah, and the other thing is they're creating a lot of turnovers. So anytime your defense, I haven't checked that number, but we have to be plus 8 or 9 in the turnover category. If we can continue to create turnovers and not have turnovers ourselves, we're going to continue to be able to put up some W's.
Now, not exactly shabby on the offensive side of the ball either. Cam O'Hara just continues to put up prolific numbers, 12 of 17, 243, 5 touchdowns, ran in another score. Isaiah Johnson, again, 3 touchdowns, 116 yards receiving. Austin Alexander, the big 61-yard reception and touchdown, his first of the year. He also had a sack. Keegan Mayer, 120 all-purpose yards. He had a receiving TD. When you can spread, I didn't even mention Jaden Combs, because when you can spread the wealth, you can have a guy have a week where he doesn't factor into the statistics. But right now, you got to be pleased with the way things are going on both sides of the ball. Address that, and then we'll get to this week's opponent. Great Crossing, which is going to give you a formidable test. They're undefeated as well. But you have to be happy. The offense has been extremely, with the exception of the second half against Ryle, it's been pretty consistent all year long.
Yeah, and you kind of mentioned it, and we talked about it earlier in the year. Isaiah and Austin really their numbers were decent, but they weren't great. And we had guys like Malachi, and we had guys like Jaden and Riker all step up, and they were having big games. And when you look at the last 2 weeks, our guys that you expect to have the big games are having the big games. So, we're starting to spread the ball around. Cam does a tremendous job. We give him a lot of leadway on our play calling to kind of just read things and find the open receiver, and he's done a tremendous job this year. And I think when you look at his growth, that's one of his biggest growths, is being able to sit there, pre-read defenses, and find the open guys. So, we give him a lot of leadway. He's done a tremendous job of reading things. Our offensive line, when you look 2 weeks ago, we really struggled. We struggled against Ryle. We struggled to give him time. And Friday night, they did a tremendous job letting Cam sit in the pocket and be able to read the defenses. And if Cam gets time, he can pick defenses apart.
Well, you talk to most coaches about quarterbacks, and the biggest thing is don't turn the ball over. And that's what you look at his numbers from last season, the touchdown to interception ratio, outstanding. He's doing it again this year, protecting the football, the leader of that offense, and that's made a difference. Now, don't forget this Friday, back home are the Jaguars. Cooper 7:30 kickoff, hosting Great Crossing, the Friday football late night menu here, extended past 11 right here at the Florence Barleycorns. Reminder, your place before and after all Cooper games, matches, other sports, just in general, could be here at the Florence Barleycorns. And let's talk Great Crossing. They're 4-0 too. Now, you know me, I sleuth through the statistics and the numbers. They have played a horrific schedule in terms of the teams that they have beaten are 1-15 combined. So that is – now they're ranked 7th in the state in Class 6A, so that's a good test, right? You guys are number 2 in 5A behind defending state champ Bowling Green. We'll get to the RPI next segment, and you're in a great position there. But you look at this game, you look at Highlands the week after. I know you're not looking past Great Crossing, but those could be 2 tremendous RPI games for Cooper.
Yeah, and when you look at Great Crossings, even though the teams they played may be 1-15, you got a Lexcath team that's been in some really tight games. It was in a very tight game with Highlands in the fourth quarter. It was a 1-score game. And we know Highlands is one of the top teams in the state. Then you got Scott County, which even though they're 1-3 right now, they're still every year solid. One of the top teams in 5A. So even though some of the teams they've played may not be, the record-wise, real solid, they're still traditional strong powers within the state, powerhouses, and they've, Lexcath continues to get better. We saw some films of Lexcath earlier in the year against Bardstown, and then, when they played Highlands, to where they are now. They're a totally different team and playing a lot better now than they were earlier in the year. Scott County. Scott County played a Boyle County team that was really good. They played a Franklin County team that was really good, and then a Great Crossings team. So I told our kids today, I told them again on Saturday, when you look at Great Crossings, I think we beat them 40-0 last year. It's a totally different team. This team's really good. They're strong up front, physical up front. It's most probably going to, up to this point, best secondary we faced all year.
Well, they run the ball too. I mean, and they had a down year for them last year, but the 2 prior years they had solid seasons. And last year in the game, Cam O'Hara, 29-41, almost 300 yards, 6 touchdowns. I mean, those are prolific numbers. But you're right. You're going to be tested. You want to be tested. I mean, you have aspirations to take that next step, and there's only one more step for Cooper this year comparative to last year, and that's to win the state final. So I think this comes at a good time. I mean, you've had running clock, 3 of the 4 games. You had a great test against Ryle, wound up on the right side of that one, and now you've got a team in great. Is it Crossing or Crossings, and where the hell is this place located?
It's Great Crossings, and it's actually in.
So it has an S?
No S.
No S.
Great Crossing.
Okay, just checking. You're as bad as Beckett. I mean, he's got gift certificates and crossings, and where is it? It's by Scott County, right?
Yeah, it's now
in
Scott
essence.
County.
Okay.
Yep.
Do they use the same facility?
They did. Scott County just built a brand new field.
Okay.
So actually, their field last year, half of the field, one end zone had Cardinals in it, the other end zone had Warhawks. So they were sharing it.
I bet that didn't go over well for both, probably,
yeah.
Right?
No, not when they play each other.
Yeah, so, all right, Great Crossing, 7:30 kickoff. Now we'll take a brief respite. When we continue, I want to talk about 2 topics. One, the RPI, which the first release of the RPI came out today. We'll tell you where Cooper finds itself and where some of the other schools. And 3 of the 4 Boone County schools are 3-1 or better. I don't know that I can ever remember that after 4 weeks heading into the midway part of the season. And I want to ask you about an epidemic that's going on. I happen to catch the local news tonight, and when they don't tell you about the weather, they actually did a story on officiating. They gave some incredible numbers about officiating in all sports in the state of Kentucky, and it's frightening, and we'll talk about that because it is becoming an epidemic, as in can't find enough officials, and I know some of them you wish they couldn't find anyway, but nonetheless, I mean, this could be I know there's a couple weeks from our Northern Kentucky athletic directors, the conference meeting, you know, where Steve Frohmeyer, who does an outstanding job assigning football officials, looks at a week of a Friday and says, I don't have enough officials to cover all the games being played that night. So we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about plenty more as we continue tonight. Player guest tonight, Issac Brown of that defense. We'll talk to Isaac about how the Jaguars are stopping the opponents, and then we have a special ending. And I was remiss. 100 victories, the big one on Friday night, and I know you orchestrated. I know you were very instrumental in the after party at the stadium. I know you're still. Please stop texting me the photos because they're bogging down my phone. But we'll talk about the celebration and so much more when we continue. Yes.
Where were you?
I told you where I was.
When I showed up there, I'm like, man, I can't wait to see Tom.
Did I not send you a congratulatory text and tell you where I was?
Afterwards.
Do you wish that would you have liked to have been in Vevey, Indiana?
No, I would have liked for you to be at Cooper.
Well, I would have liked to have been there too, but you know what? I got to pay the bills, my friend. And that's where I am. I'm 61 years old, and I'm on a Friday night lost in Vevey, Indiana.
Tom, with what we pay you to do this show,
you
shouldn't have to do anything else.
I told Lori, I told my wife, as soon as they get done, if they can make it to the state final, I'm probably on early retirement. Because, I mean, I'm just raking in the dough here. All right, we continue. It's the Cooper Football Show with Jaguars coach Randy Borchers and others. We have plenty of others tonight, so don't go anywhere. Right here from the Florence Barleycorn. Welcome back to the Florence Barleycorns for tonight's edition of the Cooper Football Show with Jaguars coach Randy Borchers and others. I'm Tom Gamble, your host, and talk about the RPI. So this is the first release of the RPI in Kentucky, which is basically a rating system, a ratings formula to qualify teams' standing, seeding, if you will, for the state playoffs. And it matters. I mean, because in the end, it dictates. It used to be where every other year a different region, in essence, would host, and it would alternate back and forth. Now it's based on this. I'm not sure anybody completely understands it, but you have to go by it. So in 5A, Cooper is number 1, which is impressive. Connor is number 5. Bowling Green, defending state champ, is number 9. Highlands is number 10. Now, again, there's still 6 weeks to go, 7 if you count the week 11, which some teams play. Cooper has a bye. So, you'd rather be number 1. I mean, it's better to be number 1 than number 21. But what's your take on this? The first rankings come out, and Ryle is number 1 in Class 6A. Louisville Trinity is number 7. So, you know, there's a lot of jockeying. You can take a look at it and see where teams are. But what do you make of this, Cooper being number 1 in the first release?
Yeah, obviously that's where you want to be. Like you said, we want to be there so we kind of control our own destiny, but in the same way we don't, because we can't control the rest of our schedule.
Right.
You know, we've been very fortunate. And when we put our schedule together 3 years ago for these, or 2 years ago, you know, Great Crossing was coming off an 8-2 season. Bardstown was coming off a state runner-up. So we tried to jockey and plan for this and get ourselves a schedule that we, you know, if you win, your RPI is going to be good. And last year, a couple of those teams, Great Crossings, Bardstown, weren't as good as they traditionally are, so it hurt us a little bit. But when you look at it now, we've kind of controlled what we can control. We beat Great Crossings, it's really going to help. But after that, you know, we're going to play a Scott that right now is I believe,
1-3.
You know, Boone County,
1-3.
1-3. So, and those are games that we can't really control, but it's going to affect where we end up at the end of the year.
Well, Dixie's 1-3 too. I mean, so, and I mentioned the Boone County schools. I mean, Cooper 4-0. Connors 3-1. Had a lopsided win over Class A Newcath, but they came in undefeated. Also beaten soundly Paul Dunbar and Lafayette. Now they had struggled against Ryle. Ryle 3-1. Big win in overtime. Big night for Jake Savage. 4 touchdowns, including the game winner, to defeat Highlands on Friday night. And Highlands winning, losing there, but that was their first defeat of the season for Highlands. You mentioned they beat Lexcath. They also beat Covenant Catholic. And then Dixie lost on Friday night to Clefcath. I'm trying to keep – they keep moving around. Beechwood won at Simon Kenton, so there's a lot of teams. And Clefcath plays actually Beechwood this week, which will be, I think, a pretty good game. That's the game in the Skyline Chili Crosstown Showdown.
Yeah, and you mentioned Ryle. I think Ryle or Highlands, I think they're 10th right now in 5A. But you look, in previous years, they're 3-1 right now and played a really tough schedule. Looking at programs, most years they're 3-1 at this time. They're in the top 3 or 4 in RPI. Which
doesn't, when you look at it and see that they're 3-1, it does kind of, you do scratch your head a little bit based on who they've played. And you mentioned, Ryle, I think that's going to be a game for Cooper that is really a big one. That's one that I think no matter what happens, adversity, etc., winning that game, I think this year, you're not going to know until it all plays out. But I think the way you were ahead in that game, had a chance to put more points on the board, didn't do it, they came back, all of a sudden, we're in jeopardy maybe of overtime. You wind up with the victory. I think that's one that you're going to point to. Coaches look for those plays, those games where you can look back and say, this was big. Do you think that was one of those that conceivably could be big ultimately?
Absolutely, especially looking at the RPI. Now, the other issue that you got to look into with this RPI, you have Ryle, Great Crossings, Campbell County all in that same district. So,
right.
Somewhere along the line right now, Great Crossings, 4-0, Ryle's 3-1. But one of those two teams is going to get lost because they play each other later in the season. So that's going to hurt us a little bit somewhere along the line as well.
It's kind of like the SEC in college football. There's a lot of really good teams in the middle of the pack, but when they start playing each other and start beating each other, it works adversely, if you will, against them. Now, I saw a story tonight, I think it was News 5. And by the way, News 5, George Vogel, the retired sports director of News 5 who came to the show here, is being inducted tonight into the Society of Professional Journalists. Makes me chuckle a little bit, but he's being inducted. Mike Dardis, the news anchor on Channel 5, is putting him in tonight down at Great American Ballpark. He's going in with the class into the Hall of Fame. So congrats to George. I texted him my congrats, didn't even know about it till today. Of course, he's so up on things. And he said, I'm still trying to figure out what this is.
Well, I feel a little better you didn't go that either.
Right,
so,
I did.
Well,
I can't. I'm here.
Yeah, well.
I'm here. I got to earn my money, man.
Can I put you in when you get in it?
Trust me. Let me tell you what. It's funny. Skinny, Richard Skinner, who's also been here, we laughed about some of the people that are in it, and I said if they tried to put me in, I wouldn't take it. Because some of the people in there are jokes. Hall of Fame. Well, now I'm in the one in Northern Kentucky where I think it's now up to 2,438 members. You know which one I'm talking about, right?
Oh, yeah, I'm in it, too.
You in it, too?
Yeah.
Everybody you talk to is in it. So that you feel pretty proud, right? You get the plaque. Look at this. I'm in the Hall of Fame until you go down your street and 80% of the people that live on your block are in it.
My brother's not, and he's got a freaking field named after him.
He's not in it?
Nope.
Hey, congrats to Mike,
yeah.
By the way, who has had his field dedicated in his honor, the red turf at Ludlow. That's pretty cool. Last Friday, and then they proceeded to wallop Dayton 61-8. And we're doing a pep rally tomorrow night at the Fort Wright Skyline Chili for Ludlow. So they play unbeaten Newport this week. So, if you're not doing anything tomorrow night and you want to, hang out. You were there.
I'll show up.
Yeah. Well, your brother Mike said he would, and then he can't. Then he sent me something today like, hey, sorry, I got ahead of myself, but that's okay. That's pretty cool for him. But I saw a report on officials, and I want to say the number a few years back, and this is officials across the board. There were 9,000 officials in the state of Kentucky, not just football, but all sports. Today, 5,400. And this is really big. I think soccer is one of the sports that's really and I know lacrosse being added in a number of places, that's an issue. But it is, even in football. When you have one day of the week And you only have, in an area like this, so many crews. I mean, I know Steve Frohmeyer at the NKAC Athletic Directors meeting, I can't remember the specific dates, but it's a Friday in October, where he said there are 14 games scheduled that night. And I know this happened last year, too. And he just basically said, we don't have enough officiating crews. I really need to lean on somebody. And schools did it last year because if you want to play and have officials, a couple moved it to Thursday, maybe Saturday. How big of a problem do you see this as an athletic director as well? For those who don't know, you're also the Cooper AD. And what is the solution? How do you get young people to want to officiate? And the report tonight, and Butch Cope from the KHSAA talked about and was lauding fans and saying, hey, you know, folks, you're part of the problem. Think about when you're yelling and doing whatever you're doing in the stands, directing it toward officials. This has become a real issue. What's your take on the official shortage and what can be done?
Well, to me, one of the things that makes it so hard is when I first started out coaching, and even when I played, was coaching early on, you had crews. So you had a Friday night crew that those guys stayed together all year long. So those guys, they not only was it they were making some money, but they enjoyed themselves.
A lot of them were friends.
They were friends.
Yeah.
They would go out after the games. Their families would come, and it was a social thing. And those guys did take it serious, but they really enjoyed it. And then your JV and freshmen were your younger guys that they were grooming, and you would have an older guy or two older guys with some younger guys and grooming those guys for the varsity. Problem we're running into now because of the shortage, we're getting these new officials, these 19, 20 year old kids that we're trying to bring in, and we're throwing them in a varsity game, and they're not ready for it.
It's unfair, really, to them.
So then you got coaches that are on these kids because the game's a little too fast for them. You got parents on them, and it's just not really fair. And those guys at 19 or 20 is like, man, I can go do something else and make more money and not deal with this. So it's a tough situation we're in, and I don't think anyone knows the answer for it because this is something that's been going on for the last 5 years, and we've known it's been a problem. But I think strategically, you're going to see, especially in football, games are going to get switched. I mean, I don't think you're going to, if this continues 5-6 years from now, you're not going to have Friday night lights anymore. You're going to have teams playing different nights of the week because you're not going to have the officials to cover everything.
Yeah, and you really, it's a leverage thing too. I know officials associations continue to pound on, the sport and say, we need more money or we're not going to fit. Well, it's kind of chicken and the egg, right? I mean, you need officials, but if they want to make money, I don't think there is an easy solution.
Yeah, and the officials, associations, their biggest thing, answer to everything is let's just give them more money. But I think over the last 3 or 4 years, we've noticed, we've given raises, our association's given raises, and it's really not bringing out any more officials.
Correct.
So I don't really think that's the answer. I do think, some of the behavior of the fans, the players, the coaches,
and coaches
is a big part of it.
It is.
Absolutely. And, and to be honest with you, a lot of times, and we get it with our assistant coaches too, and I think a lot of times it's more assistant coaches than head coaches. And to be very honest with you, a lot of times they don't know the rules, so some of the stuff they're yelling at, they're not even right about.
Yeah. Really? Coaches don't know the rules? That's a stunning development. And I hate to say this, but they see some of the behavior of players and coaches on Saturdays and Sundays and Mondays too. Might have seen a little of that yesterday, and that's the problem. It's a trickle down. So, all right, you get a little break here. We're going to welcome up Issac Brown, talk a little bit about the Cooper defense. Again, Cooper hosts Great Crossing 4-0 at 4-0. Kickoff 7:30 this Friday night. Reminder that Barleycorns will stay open with the Friday football late-night menu after 11, so you can hang out here after the game, see and discuss officiating, coaching, all those things that everybody likes to talk about. We'll talk to Issac Brown next, and then we'll have a little special presentation. But that 100 victories really is a pretty cool thing, because I don't think people realize when you start a program from scratch, you have to go through 5 to 7 years, right, of really, especially when you just get to the varsity level. You're not expecting to do much right out of the gate. Nobody is when you start a program, and that had to make you feel good. 100 wins, and you've been there for every one of them, right?
And I think it's really the longevity of it. People say, well, a lot of people don't hit that anymore, the 100 wins. But coaches just, it's the same thing with officials. Coaches don't coach that long anymore. So, I'm very fortunate to be able to be in the same school for 17 years.
That's rare, too.
Yeah,
it really is.
Because whether coaches get tired of it, fans get tired of it, put pressure on administrators to get rid of coaches. So I've been very fortunate, been very supported by our administration. So I've been able to be there for 17 years, and this time with being in sports, you're only as good as your assistants and your players. And we've had some great assistants that's came through. I got some guys that have been very loyal. Up until this past year, I had 5 or 6 guys that's been with me for the whole time. So be able to have that longevity.
That's saying something, too, because assistant coaches really come and go. I mean, there are those exceptions, but, congratulations on that, and I know that was an unexpected little end of the evening for you. So congrats on that. So, all right, we'll talk to Issac Brown when we continue, find out what he thinks are some of the reasons that the Jaguars' defense has been so solid, and find out about great crossing and his thoughts on that game and another unbeaten team coming to take on Cooper Friday night when the Cooper Football Show continues right here from the Florence Barleycorn. Welcome back to the Cooper Football Show with Jaguars coach Randy Borchers and others. Here at the Florence Barleycorns, I'm Tom Gamble, joined by special guest, a member of the Jaguars defense. He's been up here already once. Maybe you're in the clubhouse lead, or you will be at the end. If you keep getting invited, right? That's a good thing.
Yes, sir.
Issac Brown. So talk about this defense. I mean, you got, I think last year, evidenced by 58-51, the game against Highlands, which you came out on the short end. But I think most people thought if we get any defense, we've got a good enough offense that we can outscore people. But this year, maybe, right? I mean, maybe you guys, you're obviously stopping people. You've had 2 shutouts. 1 play away from a 3rd shutout, and held a good Ryle offense to 14 points.
We worked really hard, and I feel like we had some guys last year that were big in spots, and then some guys that struggled. And I feel like this year everybody is really bought in and trying to be a team defense. It's not just a one-man show or just have certain people edge rush and then the other people be just doing their own thing. It's really bought together as a team, and we're all playing for each other, and we're playing as a team trying to stop people together. It's not I get this pitch, so I'm celebrating by myself, or I get a big hit, so I'm celebrating by myself. We all celebrate together, and we're really starting to do that in practice, and it's showing off. It's showing.
Let me ask you, I got to believe that last year when you give up 58 points, obviously a good Highlands offense, a good team, you met them again in the state semifinals, but as a defensive player, you don't want anybody putting 58 up on you. Was that the low point defensively of the year? And then, and you look at, the turnaround in that playoff game against Highlands, what was the difference from the 58 to then keeping them fewer than 20?
To us, I would say we don't really have a low point. We never get too high, never get too low, but really, that's a man-up moment. When you get 58 put on you, that's it's okay, we really need to put our big boy pants on, and we need to learn, and we need to go. It can't get worse than this, so we can only go up. So ever since that, we just really started working. We all started working, and that really, it's starting to show off even this year that,
You had Jack Lonecker last year, who was an outstanding player and kind of just an emotional, physical leader of the defense. He's not here anymore. Has there been anybody, in your opinion, who's kind of taken that role and responsibility on this year?
Yeah, to me, I would say Alex Vogelpohl. He really stepped up. One of our team captains. He's a vocal leader, and to me, that really steps in that spot for me. He's always growing, and he's always saying something. No matter he's going through an injury right now, but he's still every day at practice helping us out, and he's really stepped up as a vocal leader. And to me, that fills that role really well.
Silly question, but do you as a defensive back, do you want teams to try to throw on you guys?
I love it. I love when teams try to throw on us, yeah.
All right, so are you the guy who wants the top receiver? Are you that guy?
Yeah,
do you want that?
Yeah, I want that challenge every week, especially with I've worked so hard and I know what I can do. I want that challenge every single week.
How about you as an individual and your defensive capabilities? What areas have you improved in? I mean, because you're relatively young. Last year was your first year as a starter. How different of a player are you this year comparative to last year?
I would say my speed to strength. Last year, I moved well, but I really tried to hide, and I would try to bail out a little bit. But this year, I can stay closer to receivers, and my strength. I mean, this year I have 12 tackles, and last season I finished with 24 in 15 games. So I really my strength has stepped up a lot. I'm 25 more pounds than I were last season, so I'm really able to come up and fill and hit now, and I feel like that's took a really big leap. I feel like I've always been able to cover, but now I have the physical aspect, and it's helping me out a lot.
So you do the thing that I like. I wish I was at the stage where I could put weight on. I mean, where I try to put weight on. I mean, unfortunately, when you get to be my age, you put it on, and sometimes you don't intend. What did you do to put it on, and how have you improved your speed? What were those two things that you did?
My guy Jordan Neville's Fitness. Down there, I was down there all the summer, working out with him, and I just listened to what he tells me to do, and I bought into what he has for us, and I just really took him as a leader. There's coaches on the football field, and there's mentors off the field, and to me, he's a really big mentor off the field. He's got my nutrition right. He has me eating the right things, drinking the right things, and I just really bought into what he's saying, and I put a lot of trust in him, and now it's starting to show off and pay off. So I have a lot of trust in Jordan.
They say a lot of small meals. Is that your plan, or
yeah,
what
I go. Mine, I'll eat some small meals, but I got to make sure I get in big calories. I try to get in a protein shake no matter what it's like. I try to get in a shake, and I eat a lot. So
weights, I mean, has that been a big part of it too?
Yeah,
working
lifting.
out and
Oh yeah, I lift. Going down there, he has a plan for all of us. So we all lift and we all do our different little weights, and we all it starts to show off. I really bought into the weight room. When I was younger, the weight room wasn't really a factor to me because I was always just not older. I'm still young, but I was taller than everybody and just more athletic than everybody. But as you get older, that stuff starts to run out a little bit. So you have to buy into the weight room, and I really put all of it into the weight room, and now I'm.
With you kind of coming onto the football scene a little later, do you feel now you want to play in college, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you feel? I know there's a number of kids who burn out. They started so young, and then by the time they get through high school, and there have been a number who I know who actually played at Cooper who started in college and said, you know what, I just don't think I want to play football anymore. That's not a crime. I mean, that's your personal decision. Do you feel like getting a later start will benefit you when it comes to that down the line?
Yeah, I feel like that's really helping me. I love this sport, really. I feel like I'm just getting started. I feel like I have so much more room I can grow, and I'm not even near my ceiling. So I really feel like I'm just getting started. I rarely ever feel burnt out. I normally don't get that feeling, and I feel like it's going to pay off.
Now, it doesn't hurt to be 12-3 and make the state final last year, and then be 4-0 and rank number 2 in the state, number 1 in the RPI, right? I mean, it's different when you're winning.
Amazing.
It's a lot more fun, right?
Yeah.
So now let me ask you, aspirations of playing college. If you had utopia for you, where would you go? Is there a place if you could?
Ohio State. I've been an Ohio State fan since a little kid. If I could go to Ohio State, that'd be amazing. But I mean, Ohio State is top of the top for me.
All right. What are some others that you'd be okay with?
Bama. I've been a Bama fan since.
Oh well, I mean, you certainly set your aspirations. Nothing wrong with that. That's all good.
But yeah, now there's some other smaller schools that are just really cool to me, and there's I want to get on the field quick. So I love sitting behind people and learning, but I want to have that opportunity to me where I can go out there and show what I can do early, and I can not necessarily be thrown into the fire because I'll be ready, but just get thrown in there and just trying to play from there.
It's a much different recruiting world today because the transfer portal has taken away.
Yeah.
It's really changed everything. I mean, used to be college coaches would just descend on high schools, and that's really the only place that they went. Yeah. Have you talked to coaches about that? I mean, are you understanding of that being a difficult scenario?
A lot of the coaches that talk to me, I do ask them about the portal because I want to go somewhere that I get developed. I don't want to go somewhere and I'm a true freshman and I'm working every day in practice, and then they're just like, oh, we're going to bring in this kid from the portal. That's not ideal to me, and I don't want to be a portal kid. I kind of want to go somewhere and stick in and lock in and just put my head down and work. So I definitely asked a lot about the portal because it's changing sports every single day. So I just kind of want to know where they're at with that and the portal. I mean, it's inevitable now. Everybody is looking in the portal and hitting the portal. So I definitely asked about that.
All right, back to Cooper football. Final question for you on Friday night. Great Crossing. They're 4-0.
Yes, sir.
Maybe untested, but obviously they have a pretty good running game. They're averaging a ton of points a game. You handled them easily on the road last year. Defensively, what will be the keys Friday night, and what are you as a goal, as a team defensively, what are you looking for Friday night?
We got to keep that kid in the pocket. Their QB is an amazing player. He gets out the pocket, hits receivers. We got to keep the receivers in front of us. Really fast kids. good kids, good athletes. They rarely drop anything, so we got to keep those kids in front of us, and mainly just keeping the QB in the pocket. I mean, he's a great athlete. In the run game, their defense, I mean, I feel like it's a lot like ours, so we're going to be able to pick and choose where we want to go, but their offense is where we're really looking at right now, and their running back is really solid, and they got other great dudes. So.
And you got a couple good tests here. I mean, you had Ryle 2 weeks ago. Now you got Great Crossing undefeated. Then Highlands, which will be a big one. Obviously, you played them a couple times last year. Both were single-digit games. So you'll probably find out a lot about this defense in the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I feel like we're pretty battle-tested right now, but this will show us what we're really made of and who we really are, where we can lean on and what we need to work on. So I'm excited for this week.
All right, there you have it. Issac Brown, another outstanding interview and a great job on Friday night. So appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Good luck on Friday night. All right, so when we continue, we have a little special presentation, I do believe, and I'm going to talk to a couple people that have meant a lot in the life of one Randy Borchers. So we'll do that when we continue right here. It's the Cooper Football Show at the Florence Barleycorn. All right, welcome back to the Florence Barleycorns and special guests. Here we go. Right? I mean, this is probably my last segment of the show. Ever, right? There you go. So you thought Friday was bad. Here we go. No, I'm just kidding. So these are the lovely daughters of Randy Borchers and Emily Borchers. And it's taken me, and if I call you the wrong name, it happens to me all the time. My wife has to correct me all the time. But this is Hope and this is Faith, right? And I don't know, did they aptly name you guys? They could maybe, right, need hope, some faith, right?
I think they just decided that, like, if they called us the wrong name, it doesn't matter. So it'll be fine.
So how often do you get called the other name?
Oh, all the time.
In school, like, all of, like, face teachers, like, they would still call her Hope because we would have the same teachers.
Do you
all through grade
correct
school.
them, or you just let it go?
Well, it was always her that was getting the
Yeah,
wrong.
it was always me. We work at the same places, too. So, like, everywhere I go, school, work, it's always, hey, Hope. And I'm like, hey, like, that's not my name.
You just
but
go with it, though?
Yeah,
after a
most of the
while?
time I'm just like, yeah, what do you need? And they're like, wait, that's not your name. And I was like, it's okay.
All right, so let me ask you about Dad being a coach, because obviously he's been coaching for a long time. Did you enjoy it, him being a coach? And I know you guys have been an integral part. You're around a lot. You've been around a lot, right?
Yeah.
Are you getting to the point where you're like, okay, you've done this long enough, maybe it's time? Or do you still thoroughly enjoy it because you see that he enjoys it?
No, I really do enjoy it. Like, every week it's like Fridays I'm like, oh, who do we play? Like, well, of course we always know, but I always just get like so excited thinking about it, and then, I don't know, following all the games and going to all of them. And it's been 23 years that he's been a coach. So it's like we don't know anything else. Like, we know football every Friday.
I would agree with that. Yeah. I would say every week, my highlight of my week is going out on Friday nights, getting to stand on the sideline and watching him do what he loves most.
We need to work on your life a little bit, maybe.
I know.
I'm just saying.
I know.
Just a
It's
thought.
okay.
And he would probably agree with that, right? I don't know.
Absolutely.
But because I've seen you guys there. I mean, enjoying it. What for you is the thing that really you enjoy the most? I mean, obviously you've been there 23 years. You go to the games, but what with Randy as your dad, what do you enjoy the most? Seeing what part of coaching for him makes you the happiest?
Like, I just love seeing him with all, like, the players and just, like, seeing how he interacts with all of them. And, like, you don't, like, you see, like, the Friday nights, but then you also see, like, during the week, like, I feel like he just is always happy when he's there. Most of the time, during the good years. But I just really enjoy, like, being with him around all the games and stuff.
Yeah, I would say, like, this is something that me and my dad have always bonded over. Like, ever since I was little, I've gone to every summer practice with him. So him and I, like, we talk about this all the time, and getting to see him out there, I know he's tough on the boys, but he, like, truly cares about every single one of them that's on the team and that's out there. And to see him be that role model is, like, it's really inspiring to me. And he's definitely my biggest role model, and he's someone I want to be like when I grow up.
Well, let's talk. You are grown up. just
Not
for the
yet,
record.
not yet.
I mean, it's
No, I'm not.
maybe okay.
I'm not grown up yet.
Now let's talk about things like play calling. Like, do you ever say, okay, well, that was ridiculous, like, or why aren't you going for it on fourth down in that scenario? Do you get into that kind of stuff, or do you just let it go?
It definitely depends on the mood he's in. Because if he's in a happy mood, I'll definitely be like, hey, like, so what was your method behind this? But if he's like, maybe
So you
going through a
talk
loss.
strategy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
100%.
All right.
Like, I'll sit there and I'll watch film with him sometimes in our office. Like, he'll be like in there and he'll be like breaking it down and be like, hey, can I come in here and like sit with you? And he'll be like, sure. And that's just what we do.
We really do need to. We're going to spend a couple minutes tonight discussing, like, maybe free time and
Hey,
what you
it gets
could
me
and should
it gets
be
me out
doing.
of doing my homework.
Well, that's not good either.
But it's fine. I'm
Well,
still
it's not
passing.
fine.
It
I mean,
is
that's-
fine.
No. That's not. Now, who is more like Randy? You?
Totally me. Faith
You?
is like my mom. I am like my dad, and Faith is like mom. If anyone knows that.
So define for me, and I'm not trying. Really, this isn't trying to break up the family tonight. But I mean, my question: what makes you more like Randy?
I feel like I'm more kind of like laid back, like even keel, and Faith is more kind of like a fireball, like mom.
That's not true whatsoever.
Well, I'm not gonna
If
lie.
you-
I know you two
no.
well enough to think it. I think that's pretty accurate.
If you've met her and you get her worked up, she like flies off the handle. Like she's like, "Oh, I'm so laid back."
Now remember, there are certain topics that are probably for another place and time, but that's okay. But how cool was it Friday night? I mean, you know, obviously it's not about. I know Randy well enough to know. Yes, you want to win as a coach, but it is beyond the wins and losses for him. But how cool was it to see? He's been the only coach that Cooper's ever had.
Yeah.
So how cool was it Friday night, victory number 100, and you know he was just going to be so thrilled with getting back to Cooper and all that. I won't read you the text he sent me because it's probably inappropriate. But nonetheless, what did you think about that?
So when I found out about the whole like ceremony and surprise for him, I'm thinking, like, Dad is not going to be happy about this. Like, Dad is not going to like this. But it was really fun, like, seeing him. Like, I knew he probably had some choice words when he was getting there. Like, why did my family do this? Like, why is everyone planning this? But it was so fun, like, seeing him because I knew deep down he was really happy about it. And it made him happy to see, like, he had so many people come out and support him and be there for him on such a big night.
And you?
I would agree with that. I think it's actually funny because even like last season, towards the end, like we were already calculating, like I think it was around when he got his like 100th career win. We were like calculating how many wins he had gotten at Cooper, so we knew it was going to be early on this season. So like going through the process of like planning the celebration with our mom and like doing all of these like fun little things behind his back was actually really funny because he had no idea, and like it was all happening like right under his nose. Like I was literally like making cookies on Thursday night, like at our kitchen table, and he had no idea what was going on. So to watch him like walk in, I definitely knew he was like, oh God, like what are they doing? Why is this happening right now? But I just think it was good to celebrate him because I think sometimes he needs to know like people do like really appreciate him and like his program and everything that like people get out of it. So I think that was really cool to watch.
Well, I can tell you one thing. I've gotten to know all the coaches in Northern Kentucky, and they truly respect Randy and what he's done with the program. So, you know, and they'll tell you that. I mean, you ask any of the coaches in Northern Kentucky about Randy, and they'll tell you what a great job he's done at Cooper. So, all right, now I'll leave you with this last thought. So if you're like him and you knew he wouldn't like that, shouldn't you have said no?
I tried, but I was outvoted by Faith and Mom, even though I knew like it would be fun to do. I was just like, even like when the buses started coming down, I'm like, he's not going to be happy. And I'm like, he's going to try and go in that locker room. He's not even going to try and come down here.
At least he didn't try the bus turnaround,
That's
right?
fair.
I mean, hey, you never know, right? So, well,
I was surprised he didn't try to hop back on the bus.
obviously it's really got to be cool for him having you two involved
Yeah.
in every step of the coaching, and he would tell you that. I mean, even though, I mean, he's not the most sentimental, and I guess neither am I really, but I'm trying to be a little bit. So but no, I know he really loves you guys and appreciates what you do. So thank you.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Hope and faith.
Yes.
There you go.
Got it right. Thank you.
See, there you go. Thank you. All right, a quick final segment here of the Cooper Football Shows. We get ready for this week's game against Great Crossing, and so what do you think? Does anybody have anything else? I mean, and I don't know about any of that. I just get, they just say, "Hey, this can you do this?" And I'm like, I mean, they're paying me so well, I'll do whatever it takes because I'd hate to be cut off, right? So that had to be pretty cool, and obviously, for you as a dad, having your daughters be such a part of your football coaching career. That's got to be pretty special.
Yeah, and it's funny because when we went to the state finals in 2012, my kids were still young, and obviously as a head coach, you miss so much of stuff of them growing up.
Sure.
And they were playing sports and things like that. So I remember coming in after that game and said, you know what, I've kind of done everything I think we can do here. Maybe it's time for me to step down and be a dad. And they both start crying. They're like, Dad, we don't want you to do that. We love being a part of this. We love you doing this. So
yeah, that's cool.
Since then, I've been back, and I think they're just tired. They don't want me home with them, to be honest with you.
Man, they're smarter than you, maybe. The only thing I remember about that 2012 is you had a school assembly, right? It was at night, I think, actually, correct? And you gave some impassioned speech, and I'm close to this, right? About how you were being interviewed by some reporter downstate, and you went through this whole story, and I remember coming up to you after you and going, was that true? And remember your answer? It was no.
I never said that, Tom.
Oh, yeah, no, but you did. It's okay. That was 2012. Hell, we're 12 years later than that.
But you're giving away all my secrets now.
Well, I'm making you change it this year, but that's pretty cool. And congrats again, and go for 101, right? Friday night, Great Crossing, 4-0, Cooper 4-0, 7:30 is the kickoff, and we hope everybody comes out on Friday night. And I want to thank Matt and Billy for doing a great job with the video and audio. And again, for those saying, where was Lance McAllister? Well, if the recording had worked this morning, he would have been here, but he will be here, and I will announce, I'll know exactly when he's coming. We'll announce that next Monday as we get ready. We recap the Great Crossing game. We talk about the Highlands. And I think Justin Earsing, who spent some time on your staff, he's going to join us, and a couple other guests too. So that'll be next Monday. But I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. And next Monday night, of course, Monday Night Football tonight, a thriller in the making, Atlanta at Philadelphia. But next Monday night, the Bengals host Washington as Cincinnati tries to earn its first victory. So there you go.
You want to go down afterwards, and we'll hit up the second half of the game?
No, I don't, but thanks for the invitation. I appreciate it, but
Come
no,
on, Tom.
I can't make it. No, my bad. As soon as I frost my hair, maybe I'll go down and watch that.
I can see in those Zumbas, the orange and black. You remember Zumbas?
I do remember
All right.
Zumbas, but here's what I can tell you: when your hair and your contract is your focus, you're 0-2. So we'll just leave it at that. Cooper's 4-0. You don't care about your hair, and I do remember Zumbas. Those were like the team pants, right?
Those were the end thing back
I
then.
bet the Bengal,
You wore that with your fro.
Orient, I think, wears that, right? Or Bengal Jim. Time for me to go before I get myself in trouble. Thanks to everybody for coming out tonight for another edition of the Cooper Football Show right here at the Florence Barleycorns. We'll see everybody Friday night. And don't forget, Friday night, football late night menu after 11 right here at the Florence Barleycorns. Be safe and have a great week.